Hi guys, it's Molly here and I'm currently in New Zealand, hence the different background. It's been really terrific. I love New Zealand. It is beautiful, although it's a bit too cold for my liking, but it's definitely worth coming here. We also went to Australia before we came to New Zealand, and on the way to Australia and New Zealand, I read 10,000 Skies Above You by Claudia Gray, which is the second book in the Firebird trilogy. The first book is 1,000 Pieces of You. I'm pretty sure you've seen me rave about that book a lot, except I've never actually given a proper review for it, so I'm really sorry about that. I can't really give a proper review without rereading the book, and I don't really have the time to reread the book anytime soon. So I'm just gonna split this video into three parts. First part, I'm gonna review 1,000 Pieces of You really quickly. Second part, I'm going to give a non-spoiler review for 10,000 Skies Above You. And the third part, I'll be giving a spoiler review. So 1,000 Pieces of You is basically a story about a girl. Her name is Marguerite. She is about 17 if I'm not mistaken. Her parents are scientists who invent this one device called the Firebird, and the main function of this Firebird is so that somebody can travel through dimensions. And the idea is that for every decision that a person can make, there is a dimension for that decision. So there are infinite numbers of dimensions that exist, which is just so cool. And basically you have to key in the coordinates to go to certain dimensions, and yeah, it's not like you transport to a different dimension. It's actually your conscience appearing in the body that you in that dimension is in. So there could be a dimension where Marguerite is in Paris, and so if she is in San Francisco in her own dimension, when she travels to that dimension, she will suddenly appear in Paris doing whatever her other self was doing at that time. It is just really mind-blowing. I really like the concept of dimension traveling in this whole series. It is also not too detailed because it is a sci-fi and a romance, and it wasn't too scientific to the point where I couldn't understand what was happening. It was just enough to the point where I actually really enjoyed the whole explanation about the Firebird and dimension traveling and everything. And yeah, so basically I really loved the first book. I rated it 4.5 out of 5. It wasn't perfect, but it was really lovely. I loved the romance. I loved the whole plot of it, and it was just so cool. I really think you guys should read it if you haven't, and once you've read that, you should definitely pick up the second book, because if it wasn't as good as the first book, it was a lot better. So yeah, go read 1,000 Pieces of You. And we'll see you back here when you've done that. Bye! Hi again to people who have read 1,000 Pieces of You. I hope you loved it as much as I did. I do ship Marguerite with Paul. They are just so sweet. And okay, let's get into the review for 10,000 Skies Above You. So the main gist of this book is, so you remember Theo from the first book, the bad Theo. I'm gonna call him the bad Theo because it's really confusing going back and forth between the Theos. Okay, so the bad Theo had to take this one drug called the Night Thief in order for him to be conscious throughout his visit to the other dimensions. So what happens is this makes the good Theo really weak, and so he's actually dying because of his addiction towards the drug. And yeah, so in order to find this cure, his best friend Paul went to the Triadverse to find Conley to get him that cure. But what happens is his soul gets splintered into I think four or five dimensions. Yeah, because Conley wants Marguerite to do something for him, so he did that to Paul. So in order to save Theo and to save Paul, Marguerite had to go to all of these dimensions and get her Paul back, as well as destroy the Firebird progress in those worlds. I'm not going to tell you anymore. You should go read it if you haven't. So I really loved this book. I liked it even more than the first one. I rated it 4.7 out of 5. The writing, as usual, was really wonderful. It was wonderfully written, especially at certain parts where there were really great paragraphs where it was really relatable, in my opinion. I thought that the character development for the good Theo in this book was really great because we couldn't really see much of him in the first book because, you know, he wasn't really around. But in the second book, Theo was a really great character. If I hadn't already shipped Marguerite with Paul, I'd probably have fallen for him more. But, you know, there was a little bit of a love triangle in here. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were different ships coming along after you've read this book. So yeah. What I can tell you about the plot is that it is very fast-paced. After almost every chapter, there will always be some sort of suspense kind of thing going on. So it'll make you want to read the next chapter right away, which is why it didn't take me long to read this book. If I wasn't traveling, I think I'd finish it in like one night or something. And the plot twists are just so great. And there's not just one, there's like 3 or something. I really love the way that Claudia Gray turns the story in ways that we wouldn't expect and still makes it really great. She really develops the whole concept of dimension traveling, letting us see even more possibilities of this concept that she has written about. The ending has a really interesting cliffhanger. It's not a cliffhanger where you'll get pissed off that, you know, there's not more being explained. It's the kind of cliffhanger that gets you really excited to read the next book, and it's a cliffhanger that sort of really sets the setting very well for the third book. I kind of can't believe that's going to be the last book in the series because I really love this world. As I was reading this, I kept like trying to not read it because I didn't want it to end. It's just really great. The romance in this one is not as much as the first one, I think. But it was still really nice, and there were times where I got kind of bubbly, so I love that. So yeah, please go and read this book. Go and read it, please, 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 please go and read it. I have nobody to fangirl with right now because none of my friends have read it, and it sucks. So yeah, please go and read it now. If you have read the first book, if you haven't, and for some reason you're still watching this, go read the first book and then go read this. This is possibly going to be my favorite trilogy once the third book comes out. So hopefully the third book will not disappoint like some other trilogies that I've read. Now on to the spoiler section. So goodbye to people who have not read the book. Bye! Okay, so okay, I want to talk about the plot twist. The first one being when she wakes up in the Warverse dimension next to Theo after they did it. I swear, that was freaking hilarious and shocking. And I really loved that Claudia Gray created that plot line where she became very confused about the whole destiny thing with her and Paul. And I really love that there are actually other possibilities that could also happen in between the universes. Like, even though there's that one thing that remains constant in every Marguerite or every person, it doesn't necessarily mean that they figured out what it was. So I really love that. The second plot twist was, it was the part where she meets her parents and Conley from the Triadverse. The one where she and her parents are actually working for Conley. That was really, really shocking. Terribly shocking. To find out that she is this loyal follower of Conley and that her parents are trying to make her unmake the dimensions that Josie has visited in order to get Josie back into their world. Because Josie has been splintered to a million pieces because of some sort of accident that happened. And it was just really shocking to find out how cruel her parents can be to do that, and how cruel her self in that dimension actually is. This is what she does, is she goes into dimensions and sort of ruins her other selves' lives because it was art. That is just so cruel. I just can't believe, like Marguerite, the real Marguerite, I can't believe that another self of her would do that. It was just really terrifying. And the third plot twist is that ending. Oh, that was really good. That was really, really good. The way that we thought that it was gonna be a good ending, but it turns out that the cruel Marguerite comes into this Marguerite and we don't know what happens. So that's gonna be in the third book, and I'm just really, really excited for that book. Yeah. A part that I have to talk about is the part when she revisits the Russiaverse and she finds out that she is pregnant, like the self in Russiaverse is pregnant, and I don't know, that was a really nice emotional few chapters. And then when we see her big brother Victor, I think it was Victor, it was just really nice to see him again, because I thought we wouldn't see him again after the first book. And so I think that Claudia Gray did a great job in revisiting that world, because it was something familiar to us, and it was something very special to Marguerite herself, because that was when she realized that she fell in love with Paul. There were some parts where I disliked Marguerite's decisions that really irritated the hell out of me, like when she suddenly wanted to ditch Theo and Paul and go to Russiaverse because she needed to figure some things out. I'm like, why do you? It's not. They're not the same Pauls. But I guess she needed to find out. She needed to think about the whole thing by herself. But yeah. Anyway, I don't really want to talk much more about the spoiler section, because I really want to talk about it with somebody who has read the book, and so we can have a more engaging conversation. So yeah, if you have read it, please come and contact me through the comments or something, or Twitter, and let's talk about the book and what you thought about it. Please tell me if you liked it or not. Maybe I might have exaggerated a little bit on how good it is, but I guess I just really love it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye!